Hello fellow preppers, I am Tara with Survival Sullivan. Today we're going to be using a mortar and pestle, a fine strainer, and actually in here in this coffee cup I now have my finished product working on it. It's steeping. My fine mesh strainer, and we have some honey, organically grown if you don't grow your own, and local, which will really help if you're using the milk thistle to combat allergies. And then here in this little pile of prickly stuff is a lot of milk thistle that I foraged yesterday evening. Okay guys, now I have my finished product waiting here so you didn't have to listen to the microwave, which is how I did it instead of digging out a teapot, but you can use a teapot, a camping kettle, whatever it is you want to use. I have my coffee cup to strain into and my other little strainer here, which fits on top of it nicely. And I have out my mortar and pestle. And that is what I use to beat up and ground the seeds from the milk thistle as much as possible. You can use them whole, but they tend to process better the smaller that they are. You must pull out all this white fluff, and these dried pods are very prickly. I used leather work gloves when I was harvesting it, and I'm really wishing I could put those on now to make the tea, but they're too big and bulky to do that with because I have gotten all kinds of little pricklies in my hand. But if you can see right here on the end, those tiny things are the seeds. And you must pull them out. If you get a little bit of the white fluff in there, is it going to hurt you? Not necessarily from anything I've ever heard. If you know differently, please share it in the comments section. But you don't want that in there. It is so fine, it's going to end up in your tea. So you need to pull all these little ones out, and they get disturbed by the wind quite easily. So your big thing of fluff here might not have a seed left on every end when you get to it. And be careful when you're snipping or pulling them off, because you'll lose a lot of your white fluff, which they call pulpus, I believe. Just the action of moving around the branch while you're taking off the seeds. But it's a very long process, so you can see now where I didn't do that in video. The seeds are very fine, and I just lost one. But they grind up fairly easily, and you can put them in your mortar and pestle, and you go around like this, which has also been very noisy and very boring to watch on camera. If you don't have a mortar and pestle, you could use a rolling pin even. You could use a mortar and pestle like a rolling pin. You put them in a baggie. You can run it back and forth in the seeds. You can chop down with something. If you don't own a mortar and pestle, you could do that. But for survival and homesteading survival purposes, whatever, however you exactly classify yourself as a member of the self-reliance community, that's something you really could use for medicines, home remedies, cleaning products, disinfectants, anything else. But here is what the inside looks like once you have taken out all the seeds. And it's just prickly and slow going. It's not difficult. They come out very easily just by putting your finger in there. And you just need to remove them. So now I'm going to pour my tea through this little strainer. I'll let it drain for a minute. It has a similar look to maybe an iced tea. You'll see when we're all done here. And this strainer has very fine holes in it. Not exactly a fine mesh strainer, but I was very happy to find it cheaply at our local Dollar General. I'm going to go ahead and keep pouring. I've been much better off doing what I normally do and setting my cup down inside of a bowl to catch all the runoff. This is very, very hot in here at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead. I had this little steeping. It opened up in there. I must not have class exactly right, but you can put your natural matter or your regular tea, if you're a regular tea drinker, right inside that, and it is a fine mesh steeper, but also works as a strainer to keep a lot of the debris out, so that makes it a lot easier in your straining. Did catch one piece here, and I don't know that that's a seed. I think it's a piece of the pod that's on top. Each little dried cone flower contains about 600 seeds, or can contain about 600 seeds. And the plant itself can contain up to about 8,000. You know, thereabouts, depends on the size of the plant. You get a little bit of honey and put it in here. This makes it a sweeter taste, and it actually has a little bit of a sweet taste anyway. Kind of tastes like dandelion tea. This gives a little extra flavor to it, and it also boasts the anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties, putting the honey in it. You can add a little milk if you want it creamier. I'm just going to stir in the honey. Just a second to show you what the finished product looks like. The most time-consuming part of this whole process is going to be picking out the seeds. Okay, I don't think I have any. I have one little piece of white fluff in there, and that's all that I'm seeing. So it has a typical, tea color if you drink iced tea, or maybe like a really watered down coffee from a not good restaurant. I'm not sure. I'm not a coffee drinker. That's what it looks like. I would taste it for you. I only tasted it once, and just to have an idea, and I took a little sip so I would know what I'm serving people. Women with endometriosis, which I have, cannot drink it, nor can women who have uterine cancer, breast cancer, fibroid tumors, or cysts. The silymarin, I believe how it's pronounced, in milk thistle acts as estrogen when it hits the body, and it can kind of mess up the way that hormones and things are supposed to act and can cause some swelling or other adverse effects from what I've learned in my own research. Also, pregnant women and nursing women should not drink it either. There's just not been enough studies about the safety of that. I'm not a medical professional or any type of doctor whatsoever. This is just something that I've learned that has been passed down to me that I've used, and it's worked for my family. But just because something is natural doesn't necessarily mean it's safe for anybody or everybody to drink or even use topically. So always consult a doctor before you embark on any type of a natural remedy regimen, preferably long before the shit hits the fan, so you have a better idea of what you may or may not use as medicine in a survival situation. But here's one more look at the fluff. And it took, I think I pulled seeds off of about, these are pretty good size. If you can see, it's a little bit wider than the size of my thumb. I think to make this tea, I pulled seeds off of about 4 or 5 pods. Not all of my white fluff still contained a seed, but it's harvest as far as time. Here's just a regular grocery store sack, and I harvested probably 40 milk thistle heads last night in about 10 minutes. And it was just easy. You walk up the plant, you snip it off with snippers or your knife, which is what I use, and you put them in a sack. Now to help separate, what a lot of people do is to help separate the seeds out so your fingers get less prickly. They'll take their sack and they'll lay it down the counter, and they'll use something like their mortar and pestle, and they will pound it like that to separate them out so you don't get the whole prickly thing trying to pull out the little white fluff. But I have found that I would just as soon deal with the prickly stuff, because then your little white fluff is everywhere and it just takes forever to pick it up and grasp it in your hands without it getting stuck or falling out to pull the seeds off. I'd rather have them come out in a bunch, hold them like this with one hand, and then come down with the other hand and pull them off. So it's a long process. Get you a plate with your sack of forage material and sit down at the table and just, pull them off. And then you go ahead and drink the tea warm. You can drink it cool and iced if you want to. And there you go. If you made tea differently, with different flavor additives or a different amount of the seeds in there, please leave a note in our comments section or share video, pictures on our social media where you can post such things so we can all learn a little bit together, and we can help you try to troubleshoot any problems you had making your tea.